in front of my screen, watching something absolutely surreal unfold in real time. A U.S. military aircraft is reported missing over western Iraq, with 6 crew members unaccounted for. Officials state there was no hostile fire and no friendly fire involved, just vanished. At the same time, Iranian drones are attacking a French military base near Erbil airport in northern Iraq, leaving 6 French soldiers injured. Meanwhile, in a room in Washington, D.C., the President of the United States is posting on social media, demanding that his own Federal Reserve chairman cut interest rates immediately. This is not a movie. This is not a simulation. This is Tuesday. What I'm about to walk you through is going to reshape your understanding of America's war on Iran. It will explain why things are spiraling out of control faster than anyone anticipated, and what it means for markets, energy prices, global alliances, and most critically, what it means for you. Because this isn't just geopolitics on a screen, it's already affecting your wallet, your gas pump, and your retirement account. And it's only just beginning. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal is something the mainstream conversation is completely missing. If you haven't subscribed to Sarah Mitchell's YouTube channel yet, do it right now and hit that bell icon. In the next 48 hours, this story is going to move quickly, and you need to be in the loop. Let's rewind and examine how this all began. To understand today's chaos, you have to grasp the recklessness of the initial actions. Operation Epic Fury. That's what the Pentagon dubbed it. It sounds like a title for a video game, not a war that would reshape global alliances, destabilize oil markets, and put American soldiers in the crosshairs of a regional power equipped with sophisticated drone capabilities and proxy forces spread across 5 countries. This conflict, let's be clear, it is a war, not an operation, not a strike package, and certainly not a limited military action, did not start with a vote in Congress, nor did it begin with NATO consultations. It didn't even begin with a briefing to allied Arab governments, who had every reason to be informed. According to multiple reports from NBC News and other outlets, it all began with a phone call from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and a decision made in real time by a president who, by all accounts, had no exit strategy, no coalition, no defined mission, and no timeline. That is not how wars are conducted. That is how disasters begin. Let's trace the timeline precisely. Before the first strikes were launched, U.S. intelligence, Trump's own intelligence agencies, assessed that Iran was not actively pursuing nuclear weapons. They also determined that Iran's ballistic missiles would not be capable of reaching the continental United States until approximately 2035, not tomorrow, not next year, 2035. That was the baseline, the threat level that justified this military action. Yet, within the first 72 hours of Operation Epic Fury, the justification shifted 3 times. Initially, it was about regime change. Then it morphed into dismantling nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities. Next, it became retribution. Finally, it shifted again to a preemptive strike, based on the argument that since Israel had already attacked Iran, the U.S. needed to retaliate before Iran retaliated against America for Israel's actions. Read that sentence again. Let it sink in. This is the logic that sent American KC-135 tanker aircraft into the skies over a war zone. This is the reasoning that has now left 6 American crew members missing over western Iraq. This is the rationale under which 6 French soldiers were just injured by Iranian drone strikes on a joint base in northern Iraq. As of the time of this recording, U.S. Central Command has confirmed that 2 aircraft were involved in the KC-135 incident. One went down, while the other landed safely. As of now, those 6 crew members remain unaccounted for. Central Command also confirmed that the incident was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. What that means exactly is still unclear. A mechanical failure during combat operations in a contested region still counts as a loss. Rescue operations are ongoing. Meanwhile, Iranian drone attacks have struck a joint Peshmerga and French base in the Makmur region of northern Iraq. The governor of Erbil confirmed these strikes. Video footage from the scene shows debris scattered across a civilian apartment building near Erbil airport, injuring 2 civilians. According to local officials, Iranian drones have now targeted locations in Kuwait, Bahrain, oil depots in the UAE, and commercial infrastructure near areas with reported American military presence. This is not a single strike. This is a sustained, multifaceted Iranian response that is systematically probing every vulnerability across the Gulf theater. Here's the critical number you need to understand. According to reporting from Reuters, the Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20 to 21% of global oil supply passes, remains effectively closed to international shipping, as Iran has imposed de facto blockade conditions. However, it remains open to Iranian tankers and Chinese vessels. Let that calculus sink in. If you want to follow this situation in real time, subscribe to Sarah Mitchell's YouTube channel. We will keep updating this story every day. Announcement number 1, and this one hit the markets like a freight train. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made multiple media appearances in which he stated clearly that the United States does not possess the capabilities to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz on its own. His exact phrasing, according to reports from various outlets, was that America needs an international coalition to protect vessels in the strait. He emphasized that America alone cannot do it. Stop. Read that again. This isn't an anonymous source. This is the sitting Treasury Secretary of the United States, the individual responsible for managing market confidence in American economic power, publicly acknowledging that the most critical maritime choke point on the planet is beyond the unilateral capacity of the most powerful military in human history to secure. Markets reacted accordingly. Oil volatility indices surged, and shipping insurance premiums, known as war risk premiums, skyrocketed to levels not seen since the early stages of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Airlines exposed to rising fuel costs began repricing forward contracts. Energy stocks and refining companies experienced sharp movements. Firms like Marathon Petroleum, Valero, and Phillips 66 saw significant intraday fluctuations as traders tried to factor the duration of the disruption in Hormuz into their models. Goldman Sachs, according to financial press reports, issued an urgent note to clients stating that the disruption in Hormuz is no longer a tail risk scenario. It is the base case until further notice. This was announcement number 1. Announcement number 2, and this one alarmed the Gulf Arab states in ways that the White House clearly did not anticipate. Reuters published a report that highlighted how, while the United States ignited this conflict with Iran, it is the Gulf Arab states that are paying the price. This is not fringe commentary. This is mainstream international reporting. Here's the crux of what Reuters documented. Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain, had engaged in extensive side arrangements with the Trump administration, making investments in Trump-affiliated entities and participating in economic initiatives tied to White House access. The implicit understanding was that American protection and security guarantees would follow. What these Gulf states received instead was a war launched without consultation, without warning, and without a plan, a war that has now made them targets of Iranian retaliation strikes, closed shipping lanes they depend on for economic survival, and demonstrated, as Reuters put it, the limits of American security guarantees, even when backed by the most powerful military on Earth. Consequently, according to multiple regional reports, Gulf Arab states are now engaged in serious discussions about new regional security arrangements, not with the United States, but with Iran. Let that sink in. Nations that have spent years, billions of dollars, and significant political capital aligning themselves with Washington are now quietly exploring whether their long-term security interests require accommodation with Tehran. This is a direct result of the current American president demonstrating through actions that U.S. military power, without competent strategic leadership, is not a reliable security guarantor. This was announcement number 2. Announcement number 3, and nobody saw this one coming. Vladimir Putin is winning, not with missiles or soldiers, but with money. While the Strait of Hormuz is effectively under Iranian control, while Gulf oil infrastructure is being targeted by Iranian drones, and while global energy markets are in turmoil, Russian oil exports are flowing freely. Russian tankers are operating normally, and Russian crude is being purchased by buyers who cannot access Gulf supplies. According to financial analysts tracking Russian export revenue, Putin is currently generating hundreds of millions of dollars per day in additional petroleum revenue as a direct consequence of this war. Let me emphasize that point. The United States military launched a war that has effectively enriched Vladimir Putin. At the same time, Trump's special envoys are reportedly holding meetings in Miami with Russian contacts, while Russia maintains its strategic alignment with Iran against American military operations in the region. China, which also aligns with Iran, continues to receive oil through the Strait of Hormuz, even as that strait is closed to American allied shipping. Trump praised Xi Jinping this week and lauded Pakistan, which issued a formal statement of solidarity with Iran. India, whose Prime Minister Modi spoke directly with Iranian President Suskian, expressed deep concern over the escalating tensions and the loss of civilian lives, emphasizing India's commitment to dialogue and diplomacy. India is signaling sympathy toward Iran. Pakistan stands with Iran. India sympathizes with Iran. China supports Iran economically. Russia profits from the chaos surrounding Iran. And Trump is posting on Truth Social, demanding that Jerome Powell cut interest rates. This is announcement number 3. Now, let's discuss what's happening behind closed doors in Washington, because this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. The chaos within the administration is not being concealed. The justification for this war has shifted so many times that even allied governments have stopped pretending they understand the mission. Congressional members, including Democratic representatives, have publicly stated that without a clear mission objective, there is no coherent way to design a strategy, define tactics, or measure success. This is not merely a partisan talking point. It is basic military doctrine. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt issued a statement this week that deserves careful scrutiny. In response to an ABC News report suggesting that Iran poses a potential threat to the American homeland, Leavitt insisted the story should be immediately retracted, calling it unverified. She stated, and I want to quote her precisely to be clear, "There's been no such threat from Iran to our homeland ever. It never existed. Ever." Here's why that statement is extraordinary. One of the original justifications for this war, before the reasoning changed 3 times in 72 hours, was that Iran posed a threat to American national security. The White House communications director is now publicly asserting that this threat never existed, seemingly unaware that she has just undermined the legal and political foundation of the entire military operation. You cannot build a coalition of willing allies when every statement your administration makes contradicts the previous one. You cannot maintain international credibility when your press secretary is publicly invalidating your own case for military action. As one Democratic congressman from California remarked in a widely cited interview this week, you can't lie your way out of a war. It occurs in real time. The consequences are something everybody feels. He's right, and everyone is already feeling it. If you live in the American Midwest, Great Plains, or Southeast regions where manufacturing, agriculture, and logistics drive the economy, here's what this war means for you right now: fuel prices. The national average for gasoline has surged significantly since the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Diesel prices, which are crucial for trucking and, by extension, everything you buy in stores, are also on the rise. Agricultural operations that rely on diesel for their equipment and on fertilizer inputs derived from natural gas are grappling with cost structures that will take months to filter through the supply chain. Those increased costs will inevitably show up on your grocery bill. If you work in energy refining or petrochemicals, your sector is currently experiencing extreme volatility. While short-term margins appear strong in some segments, long-term capital allocation decisions that determine planned expansions, hiring, and infrastructure development are effectively frozen. No one is making 10-year investment decisions while the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. If you have retirement savings in equity markets, like a 401k, an IRA, or a pension fund with equity exposure, you've already witnessed volatility metrics spike. The VIX, often referred to as the fear gauge of U.S. equity markets, has risen sharply. Initially, defense contractors saw a rally, while energy stocks experienced a split. Upstream producers benefited from higher oil prices, but refiners faced margin compression due to rising crude costs. Banks with exposure to the Middle East are feeling the pressure. This is not a theoretical situation. This is your portfolio right now. Here's the aspect that the White House really doesn't want you to consider. Once regional trading relationships are restructured, once Gulf states sign new security arrangements with Iran, once Asian economies secure alternative energy supply chains that bypass American protected shipping lanes, and once European allies begin crafting defense doctrines that do not rely on U.S. security guarantees, those relationships won't easily revert when the political winds shift in Washington. As one analyst bluntly stated, the jobs that disappear when supply chains restructure do not return when tariffs end. The alliances that fracture due to broken trust do not reassemble on command. This represents a structural shift, not just a temporary disruption. Hit like if this is resonating with you and drop a comment. I want to know if you saw this coming. Now, let me share what I think will happen next. I see two distinct paths ahead, and there's no middle ground anymore. Path 1 requires something close to a miracle at this point. It would involve someone within the administration, whether it's Besant, a senior military commander, or congressional intervention through emergency war powers legislation, forcing a genuine strategic pause. A ceasefire framework could be negotiated, possibly through back channels involving Qatar, which has historically acted as an intermediary between Washington and Tehran. Iran might agree to freeze further strikes in exchange for a defined American de-escalation timeline. The Strait of Hormuz could reopen to international shipping under some form of internationally monitored arrangement. Markets would stabilize and energy prices would pull back from their highs. Gulf Arab states, observing Washington demonstrating some capacity for strategic coherence, might delay finalizing alternative security arrangements with Iran. This path exists, but it is narrow and requires the current administration to publicly acknowledge that the original strategy was insufficient, something this White House has shown zero appetite for. Path 2 leads to a spiral. Iran continues its systematic targeting of Gulf infrastructure, and a strike results in American service members being killed, not just missing or injured, but killed. Domestic political pressure would then force an escalation response. The U.S. would launch additional strikes, and Iran would activate its proxy networks in Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria. The conflict could expand from a bilateral U.S.-Iran operation into a genuine regional war with multiple active fronts. At that point, the comparison people might make is not to Iraq in 2003, but to something far worse. Unlike Iraq, Iran possesses a sophisticated drone and missile arsenal, proven proxy networks, and strategic partners like Russia and China, who have every economic and geopolitical incentive to ensure that American power is exhausted and discredited in this theater. The Strait of Hormuz could close indefinitely, leading oil prices to rise to levels that trigger a global recession. NATO allies, already alarmed by American unilateralism, might begin to accelerate their own independent defense arrangements. The dollar's status as the global reserve currency, which depends on confidence in American institutional stability, would come under pressure. In that scenario, nobody wins, everyone suffers. I believe we are closer to Path 2 than Path 1. I thought that 3 days ago, then something changed, and then it changed back. That's the nature of our current situation. Iran's Supreme National Security Council Secretary, Ali Larijani, made a pointed statement this week, saying, "Trump says he is looking for a speedy victory. While starting a war is easy, it cannot be won with a few tweets. We will not relent in making you regret this grave miscalculation." That is not mere bluster. It is a strategic communication from a government that has endured years of maximum pressure, built redundant military and economic infrastructure to withstand prolonged conflict, and is now watching its adversaries' coalition unravel in real time. Meanwhile, domestically, as American crew members go missing over western Iraq and French soldiers are injured by Iranian drones in northern Iraq, Trump is delivering a speech in Kentucky, claiming the war is going great, that there is no danger in the Strait of Hormuz, and that this is a victory. International audiences are watching those clips. Leaders in Tokyo, Berlin, Riyadh, and New Delhi are not seeing a projection of American strength. They are witnessing something that one veteran congressman described as comical, but simultaneously deadly. This is what credibility collapse looks like in slow motion. It's not a dramatic moment or a single event. It's speech after speech, statement after statement, justification after justification, each one slightly contradicting the last. Each one eroding a little more of the foundational trust that underpins American alliances. You cannot lie to your allies for years and then expect them to stand beside you in a war. You cannot publicly invalidate your own rationale and expect adversaries to take your red lines seriously. You cannot demand that your Federal Reserve Chairman cut interest rates in real time via a social media post while 6 of your military crew members are missing in a war zone and expect the world to view you as a steady hand on the wheel. Before we close, let's consider one more layer that deserves attention. There is an ongoing domestic political dimension that connects directly to what's happening in the Middle East. Before this war began, America was already under significant economic strain. Healthcare costs were rising, housing was becoming unaffordable at generational highs, and the job market was showing signs of structural softening. Consumer prices were elevated due to previous tariff regimes. These were the conditions on the ground before a single bomb was dropped on Iran. Now, add the war premium on energy, the uncertainty dragging down business investment, and the erosion of consumer confidence that arises when people watch the evening news and can't grasp what their government's plan actually is. One Democratic congressman from California, a member of the Congressional Dads Caucus, a bipartisan group of around 50 members focused on family economic issues, stated this week that his caucus is preparing what they call a national summit on the caregiving crisis, scheduled for March 17th. The focus will be on paid family leave, affordable housing, childcare costs, and elder care, the economic fundamentals that working families deal with daily. His argument is straightforward. Opposition cannot just be opposition. It must be a vision. We can fight Trump every step of the way and call out his hypocrisy, he said, but we also have to say if we take power, this is what we're going to fight for. That argument will be crucial in the next 18 months because the political landscape of this war will be shaped not just by what happens in the Strait of Hormuz, but also by what occurs at the gas pump, in grocery stores, in unemployment figures, and in mortgage application rejection rates. Trump campaigned on ending foreign wars, prioritizing America, and reducing the cost of living. He is currently overseeing an unauthorized war with no exit strategy, no defined mission, no congressional approval, and no allied coalition. A war that is costing billions of dollars each week, spiking energy prices for American consumers, and demonstrably weakening America's strategic position in the most consequential region on the planet. Even within the Republican base, according to multiple reports, there is a growing and audible question. This isn't America first. This isn't MAGA first. This is Trump family first. This is billionaire first. This mirrors the same establishment we were supposed to disrupt, just wearing a different hat. That fracture matters. It matters electorally, and it matters because the human costs of this war, the missing crew members, the injured soldiers, the civilians caught in drone strike debris, and the families that will never fully reassemble, will accumulate in ways that no media management strategy can contain. Let me leave you with the questions I keep coming back to. Is Donald Trump truly in control of this war, or has the war taken control of him? Are the Gulf Arab states preparing to permanently align with Iran? If they do, what does that mean for 50 years of American Middle East policy? And the question that keeps me up at night, when the dust settles and this chapter concludes, which country will emerge stronger, the one that launched the war or the one that survived it? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. If Sarah Mitchell's YouTube channel has been keeping you ahead of the story, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit like on this video and share it with someone who needs to understand what's really happening, not the version being managed from the podium, but the reality that connects the missing aircraft over Western Iraq to your gas bill, to global oil markets, and to the future of American alliances. We'll have more updates as this situation develops, and it will develop quickly. Stay with us.